Hello and welcome to Biscon Politics. I am Emanuela Edun at DDG. We will be discussing Nigeria and the way forward, and my guest is Honorable Dayo Bush, and he was a two-term member of the House of Rep at the Kosofe Federal Constituency. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And also he served between 2007 to 2015, for the record's sake. So you're welcome once again.
Thank you
and
for
thanks
having me.
for obliging my invitation.
Thank you.
Now, so Nigeria. Before we delve into the topic on ground, I want you to tell us a bit about yourself. You served at the House of Reps, and what are the motions? What are the bills you sponsored and the motions?
Well, they're quite a bit. I served from 2007, like you said, to 2015. I was subcommittee chairman of EFCC. I was chairman treaties and agreements. I served on the committee of petroleum upstream. I served on the committee on national security. I served on the committee on justice. Quite a number of committees I served on. Some of the motions, just to mention a few, that I worked on was the compensation of the Dana air crash victims, the adequate compensation. I moved the motion on the estimated billing, transferred responsibilities of previous occupants. You move in and then they say you have to clear their bills. That was my motion then. The caffeinated energy drinks was my motion. The curtailing of the swine flu then was my motion, just to mention a few. Also, the Intercontinental Bank Access Bank motion was mine. The review of the contract of the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road was mine. I just couldn't sit by and watch when I saw the list of men, women, children who had died on the road. The tobacco bill was mine. The alcohol control bill was mine. Quite a number of the bills. I worked on quite a number of bills.
Okay, that's commendable. Now, sir, what are your thoughts about? Okay, first I want to talk about security, because a bird can only safely roost in its nest if the tree that the nest is on is calm. If it's quite windy, the bird will not have that rest. Now, Senator Ike Ekweremadu recently made a statement that a security situation is going to get worse. And also it brings me to the recent killing of the assistant director at Aso Rock. What's her name again? And she was killed in her apartment. She was killed in her apartment. I'm thinking, were there no security guards for someone of that position? Where were the security guards when this murderers go in and assassinated this woman and burned her? And then looking at the state of insecurity in the Northeast and all that, the killings, people being displaced and everything. What are your thoughts about it? And then what measures do you prefer? Since we're talking about what's happening and then how we can make progress.
We've always had We've always had security problems across Africa, across Nigeria particularly. You asked certain questions. Where were the security guards when Olaide was killed? Where was the security guards when Funshaw Williams was killed? So many other people. When Pariwane was killed, where were the security guards? And so on and so forth. I remember that I saw a video recorded in the 70s. The video was not about security, but it spoke about Fela. It was telling Fela's history, Fela Anikulapo, the legend, the musician. It went further to talk about the country where Fela came from and the state, and some states where he had resided, or a state where he had resided. And in describing one of the states, it talked about how popular the state was. It talked about how, it was such a fast state. And what got my attention was what he said in describing the state, and the person running the commentary has said, or the narrator has said, that state was somewhere where you could have your eyes gouged out in broad daylight and nothing would happen. And I looked at the stamp, the time stamp on it, it was in the 70s. And I thought, oh my goodness, security has always been something that we've struggled with. If you remember in the 70s, maybe the late 60s, or in the 70s particularly, when armed robbery was quite high, to serve as some kind of deterrent, they started to execute thieves and robbers. However, that was not, it didn't stop armed robbers from still going about their businesses. Now you have a global phenomenon called terrorism. Most terrorists are usually known to fight for some kind of ideology, either for their race, for their country, for their religion, and I wonder certain things. Terrorism is terrorism, period. It's a global phenomenon because it's, in some crimes, it's how do I describe it? It's a money-making venture. There are countries who actually pay to get them to leave them alone, to say, listen, you know what, we just want you to stay out of here. They actually pay them bundles just to keep them out. And of course, news gets around. They're not doing this for fun. There's something in it for them. What's in it for them? If you anywhere you hear people fighting for religion, it's a lie. It's not about religion. Every human being on earth, how many are we? 6 point something billion people on earth cannot fight for God. So I really don't understand why religion should be an issue. Religion is something that has to be between you and God. It's like going to the bathroom. It's meant to be you and God alone there. There's no reason why I can't respect your religion or you can't respect mine. Same as culture, it's the same thing. So I'm led to really believe that it's not terrorism it's a money-making venture. Some people stand to benefit from it. It's used to wrestle power. It's used to and things like that. It drags the nation back because most countries right now, you'd find out that a lot of countries who refuse to speak English, you would get there. Saudi Arabia, I remember when you visit Saudi Arabia, people hardly spoke English. They were always wanting to speak Arabic. Now they're speaking English. When I visited France many years back, you would speak English and you wouldn't get English spoken back to you. That has changed. When you visit places like Dubai, Qatar, and things like that, you find out that everybody's embracing English because it's a common language spoken across the globe. And if you're a government or a people or a nation serious about tourism, it's a language you'd have to pick up. Luckily for us, we speak English. It's our lingua franca. But now we're dealing with issues like this. When you now ask me what's the way forward, though I'm not a security expert, but I know there's several things we deal with. I remember a case in America where several years back when they had issues with the corrupt police force. They had issues with excessive force. They had killings and things, and there was a huge outcry. Now, America had to look in the direction. They thought, how could we combat crime? How could they combat crime and still not offend the sensitivity of the people? What they did was they looked at a country, they took a case study, and they thought in the UK, they used what you call batons. They didn't carry guns, but they had a very effective policing system. So what they did in America was they got a retired police officer from the UK to come help them reform in the US. Now let's close our eyes and imagine us struggling with security, and then we have to go to look towards Ghana or Cameroon. Oh my goodness, all hell will be let loose. Saying, you'd see some people engineering certain things, saying, oh, are you saying in the 200 million population we have, there aren't people who understand security well enough? But there are times where you have to, for me, that's an issue of ego. There are times where you would have to drop your ego, you'd have to be humble, and you'd have to ask for help. At the end of the day, what you want is just a stable climb. So like I said, I'm not a security expert, but that common sense tells me is the way to go.
Okay, and still on the security issue, there's the debates right now about state policing, regional security and all that. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's always been there. In the past, we had state, we had not state policing, we had community policing and things like that. Because you can't be in the state and know what's happening within the community. So there was reason for synergy. And policing does not mean you must bear arms, to be honest with you. So if there's cause to have that kind of state, I think one of the things that's really bothered a lot of Nigerians is the fact that everybody wants to bear arms, and it makes people uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable around guns. A lot of people have phobia for guns, and there are times where when you see guns, you know there's serious business. So if I have no issues with state policing, if it's being done being used the way it ought to be used at the local level, that's fine.
What about the regional security outfits being set up now? The Amotekun and the rest coming up. I think the Southeast is saying they're going to reveal theirs shortly. The North came up with Shege Kafasa, even though the Sultan of Sokoto rebuffed it and everything. What do you say about that?
If I remember, when you go by the statistics, about 6 years ago, I would say, as of 6 years ago, the total strength of the Nigerian Navy, the Nigerian Army, the Air Force, the police, everything, the paramilitary and the military in total were less than 1 million. And we have a population of about 200. If I'm right, I think it was just about 500,000, if I'm right. Yet we have a population of, well, they're saying as of today, I hear it's about 208 million people. Now, the ratio is out of balance.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. And where that's the case, and crime rates, we have a lot of crime. We have cyber crime, we have financial crimes, we have domestic crimes, we have all sorts of crimes. We have traffic offenses, we have a lot. But we seem to focus only on violent or serious crimes. The issue is where people are being killed on a daily basis, there is need for assistance, there is need for support. If a balance can be reached, if a balance can be struck in where those guys are seen as task forces or task force and are able to support those agencies in place, I have no problems with it, for as long as they perform within their limits. I have no problem with it. But I think what scares people is that they would probably end up abusing, going beyond their reach. And I think that's just basically what the worry is. But if there are checks and balances, I don't think it should be an issue.
Now I want us to talk about our image before the international community. Recently we suffered a visa ban from the US and several others. You know, a lot of our brothers and sisters living, in the diaspora are complaining. There's this stigma. Once they say I'm a Nigerian, it's like, wow, people want to just disappear into thin air. That's the impression, and that's what I've heard, time and again. So our image before the international community. What are your thoughts about our image presently, and then how? Because I mean, the way forward, it's all about what you feel that we could do to salvage every deploring situation we're facing.
To be honest with you, your image is how they choose to see you. Our image is just an opinion of those of the
But
way we're seen.
that's I mean, you can't just you form an opinion based on what you perceive
Well,
or the perspective that's given to you.
well, but what you perceive does not necessarily mean it's true. Other people's opinion of you doesn't have to be a reality.
But it seems to be general.
But truly, is that our reality? I've lived abroad. I've moved abroad. I've moved. I've seen quite a lot of things. Does it happen? Yes. All the time? No. Does it happen? Yes. We're gifted people. We're very smart people. Your gift, if not understood, can make some people uncomfortable with you. We've had issues of crime. I'd mentioned in the course of this discussion, I'd mentioned an issue of cybercrime. Does it mean every Nigerian is a fraudster? As a matter of fact, when you look at documented crimes committed in Nigeria, in all of Nigeria, it's not equal to that of Texas alone. It's just a state in America. But I think what we need to do is we need to create by ourselves for ourselves. We have a lot of negative talks coming from within.
Within ourselves.
And if we're able to change that, I know a lot of people are bitter. They say when the heavens fall, it falls on everybody. A lot of people are bitter. Everybody's feeling this. However, I think if we're able to package ourselves or project ourselves in a particular way, if we're able to reform ourselves. I've always talked about cultural reform, because cultural reform also has an impact on our mindset. There's this thing of us, them, and when you speak with Nigerians, they talk about Nigeria is bad because of them. Because who are the them, the people in government? When you interview several people in government, those people in government keep referring to them, some of the people in government, and you keep wondering, who are these them? But by the time perception changes, it's natural. There are a lot of Nigerians doing wonderful things in the medical field.
Yes.
A lot of Nigerians are doing wonderful things. How come they choose not to look at us in that light? It's how you choose. When you have a gift, your gift is either seen as a threat or as a blessing. It now depends on how that person looks at your gift. I think that's basically what. Yes, we do also have, we as a people and the government, the people and the government have a lot of work to do in how we project ourselves, how we project our country, to be honest with you. Yes, absolutely. But the opinion doesn't have to be a reality. That I'm sure.
Fine, the opinion doesn't have to be our reality, but these things are affecting us.
No doubt about it. Why is there that ban? Is it because we're bad? Are Nigerians the only ones causing issues in America? But if you remember, during elections, during campaign, there were talks of, oh, this politician cannot go to America. This politician cannot go. It was projected as if America is where God lives, is heaven. And of course, you use what you have to get what you want. You use that to bargain for it. There are a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration. When this would not be the first time Nigerians would be banned. How did we start the visa issue? We didn't have to obtain visas and going to England. There's always one thing or the other, and when you understand governance, you would see that it can't be left like that. There'll be reasons to discuss, to negotiate, to say, listen, it's important you change how you view us and things like that. So they're different. If you remember, I'm not sure what country it was. Was it in Asia? Was it an Asian country where some American students had gone. I think it was a basketball team, and one of them had been said to, or a couple of them had been caught shoplifting, and it took luckily the American president Donald Trump was there then, and it took his intervention to actually release those students. Otherwise, they would have been in jail because shoplifting was seen as a very serious offense. There's so many countries, that have different things. I've been to countries where I read up something. I saw some news several years back where there was an issue between Brazil and America, where America came up with the US had come up with some policies, and it didn't go well with Brazil, and Brazil also decided they were going to retaliate and put the same thing in place. So it just depends on how each country or the individual countries handle those things. I think it's something that can be settled, that can be resolved at that level, it's always going to be a diplomatic resolution anyways. So let's leave it to the diplomats to resolve.
Okay, I want us to go to economy. Presently, the naira seems to has really depreciated. You cannot you spend more for less. I also want to talk about our dependence on crude oil as a major source of revenue generation. Must it be crude oil alone that should be? I mean, can we not have other sources of revenue generation from other sectors?
Oh, absolutely.
Why the focus is just basically on crude oil?
Though I'm not an economist, and you'd see that even a lot of people who end up being presidents are not economists. They have economic advisors and things like that. They have critical thinkers. Regardless of whatever resolution or whatever position the critical thinkers come up with, I think at the end of the day it'll lie on the doorstep of any government to implement those things. Even the government is aware of the fact that Nigeria can't depend on crude oil. That's very obvious, and that's why there's been this outcry, this issue of agriculture. The last couple of administrations have been quite particular about technology as well, because any serious government now, any serious country government must really look in the area of technology. Look at India. India has suddenly changed. They're exporting technology. Singapore has taken on technology in farming, not even the use of tractors. I'm talking serious technology and things like that. Irrigation and everything is preset and all that. I'm aware of a strawberry farmer called Hiroki Iwasa, who's completely turned things around with technology. We have a lot of exotic fruits here. So you can imagine mango, for example, grows wild. And I'm aware that people go into the bush. Yes, no particular person plants mangoes in the wild, but they grow. So how do we look at treating them even in the wild? That's a lot of tons and tons of millions of a lot of money can be in dollars in foreign exchange can be made from the export of mangoes and several other things. Even the pepper that we do, the Scotch bonnet and several are in high demand. So there are quite a number of things that can be done. Technology, agriculture, and things like that.
Mining, tourism.
Tourism is huge. However, how do we deal with tourism with the issue of insecurity? The first thing you hear is, I remember talking about that. I remember I traveled and I went for training. I went to school, and at the airport there was just I was at the duty free. I was looking at something, and someone had said to me, "Oh, you're Nigerian?" I said yes, and asked me that. So how do you deal with the issue of corruption? And I thought, it was kind of upsetting initially, but I realized that there was no need in me being upset. I asked what country the person was from. I think she was, if I remember whether it was Chile or Bolivia. I said, well, we're dealing with the same issues you guys are dealing with in terms of kidnapping and things. And you know, then she was offended. I asked her, you offended? She said, yes. I said, why would you ask me such a question? And I mentioned a few people. How come you didn't ask me about football and our football stars? How come you didn't ask me this? How come you didn't ask me that? We ended up being friends, and we went our separate ways. I was happy with the fact that I had made an impression on that person. But where a lot of people are there thinking that people get killed, you know, yes, we're dealing with a lot of that. I'll be very insensitive to say it doesn't happen, but not the way it's being projected to or being reported, intentionally reported to the outside world. These are things that can affect us. And for us to grow, we have to take care of some basic things, infrastructure and several other things. India has suddenly gotten huge on medical tourism, you know, and so many other things can actually be looked at. But, well, it's never late. I think we still need the involvement of the middle class and of a certain class to elect the right leaders. Everybody keeps looking in the direction of the governors and the presidents, but no, for me, I've always said repeatedly that look at the policymakers, the lawmakers. They're the ones responsible for a lot of things. And if you elect somebody who is not capable, you know, we forget people go to study.
We'll have to go on a break right now.
Oh, that's fine.
We'll be right back. Just stay with us. Welcome back. You're still on to Biscon Politics, and we're discussing Nigeria and the way forward. My guest is Honorable Dayo Bush. Now, sir, I want us to, the National Agency Bill, I want us to talk about it. The bill, I have it here. The bill is about, just a moment. Okay, I think it's here. The bill is about, it was sponsored by Senator Ibrahim Gaidam and at the upper chamber of the National Assembly, and it's captioned National Agency for the Education, Rehabilitation, De-radicalization and Integration of Repentant Insurgents in Nigeria. You know, and it's about bringing in this so-called Boko Haram and the insurgents and all that. And here it says that 1,400 Boko Haram members have been released in 3 tranches since Operation Safe Corridor began. So what are your thoughts on this bill, this particular bill, bringing, you know, rehabilitating Boko Haram members that have killed, maimed, done all sorts of, you know, ills to people?
There's a lady in America who's an influencer. Her name Dr. Her name's just eluded me now. She's regarded as an influencer, and what she does is, in some cases, when hardened criminals are sent to jail, or some are given the option to go serve with the lady to rehabilitate them and then reintegrate them. Some would have ended up serving some time, and they would tell them, well, you're due for parole. We will grant you parole on one condition, that you go serve time with the woman. And she's regarded as a miracle worker by the time you're done. Because you need to understand something, that whether you're sentenced to 10 years imprisonment, or you're sentenced to 20 years, you're sentenced to 30 years, you finish your time, and then you come back into society. Do you come back rehabilitated in prison? Prison doesn't rehabilitate you. There's an ongoing discussion whether it's a form of punishment or to rehabilitate you. I haven't really looked totally at the bill, so I'm not sure whether the reintegration would be after they would have served their time in prison, and before being released back into society they have to go through that. So it would be premature of me, it would be very premature of me to comment and say it wouldn't be right, as I would be speaking blindly. But I know that if it means that after they would have served their time, they go through that, that's fine.
But that's not talking about serving any time here. The
The
1,400 that were released, they didn't serve any time.
The good thing about this is this. The question is, has this bill been passed, or it's being passed? Has it gone to public? Has it gone through to public? Oh boy, it's eluded me now. To public hearing. Has it gone into public hearing then? Yet I'm not aware of this. So if it hasn't gotten to public hearing, no bill can be passed without getting to public hearing. It is at that point where everybody would need to move there. And I'm happy that it's not being sponsored in states. It's being sponsored at the federal level, where everybody would have to go there, have an input. This is our input, this is our input. Every individual, every group who is concerned can go there to make their input. And it's actually part of the input that makes up what becomes that bill. So it'll be premature to be jittery and say, without serving time they want to rehabilitate them. I wouldn't want to think so. I want to believe that it would mean they would have probably done some time paid, and then upon being released, they go through that process.
That process. Okay.
I want to think so.
Recently there's been an outcry about the decision of Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, the Speaker of the House of Reps, to purchase 400 exotic cars, which will cost 5 billion naira. And people are wondering why that will be, considering the present economic condition of the country. So what are your thoughts on this particular issue? 5 billion.
My thoughts would be huge, but my comments would be limited based on the fact that I'm aware that Sarah has approached the courts to stop them.
Yes, they have.
And usually when a case is in court, you as a parliamentarian, you have to be careful. It's a tradition to stay aloof because it's already in the court of law. However, I can completely feel the pulse of the people. There's a policy in place that talks about patronizing Nigerian products. As a matter of fact, I think it was the Jonathan administration that came up with the CBD complete breakdown and things like that, where you had to pay so much money to clear imported vehicles. And the reason given was that, they wanted to create room for local content. The opinion out there is that, based on the facts that you have the innocents and
which they outrightly rejected,
and the several companies here, how come they're not people? The opinion out there is practice what you preach, which is based on morals, if you know what I mean. But on the other hand, it's unfortunate that this was placed in a bill that made it law, because the budget is the bill, and it was stated in there that they would be buying vehicles and things, but the bodies and the watchdogs didn't pick up on it on time. It's painful that it's a known fact that every 4 years these purchases are done, and attention was not zoomed in to say, wait a minute, why is 5-point-something billion being budgeted for vehicles? How much is X amount of vehicles? People are concerned that To be honest with you, do they need vehicles? Yes. But what people are talking about out there is, must they be exotic cars or should they be functional cars? So that's where the issue is. So I understand the feelings out there, but the case is in court now, and it'll be interesting to see how it turns out in court. I think that's where, on moral grounds, I understand the feelings and sympathy of the people and sympathize with the people. But on the other side, it'll be said that, oh, but it was placed in the budget and it's become law. And it's what it is at the moment until the court. I think we just need to take a closer look at what Serap is asking for, saying that they should put a halt on the purchases, stop them from purchasing until certain conditions are met. So we'll wait to see how it goes.
I believe it's just looking at the economic situation of the country. Like I read a lot of comments about this particular move, and a lot of people, everyone.
It's expected for people to be
everyone they were all against it. This is too much. This is just too much.
When you're certain things,
and it seems like these lawmakers are quite insensitive. You were a lawmaker and all that, and that is because we're just on this other side and we're looking at, because if you look at all the remuneration they have, you will wonder why. Because like even one person commented that, say, there's the people who have this for this and this for that and several, at least a whole list, a huge list of income. So why would they still want to take this amount of money? Why can't they just make do with what's been given them already?
That's exactly why I said that. I've always been outspoken on certain things. I say that it's easy to make laws, but how do you get people to stand? How do you expect it to be respected? For you to uphold the law, you have to respect the law. But when you do not respect the mover of the law, how do you get to respect the law? And everybody's quite upset about it right now. Because I've been on both sides, I can understand that. The issue is not that they're buying cars. The issue is that they're buying exotic cars. It's understandable that it is necessary for them to use in their oversight functions. They need to drive from point A to point B. They need to move from... You can't have a bus when you have to go from here to... Sometimes you do interstate. I know members who travel from one state to another from their constituencies they have a phobia for flying, so they're more comfortable with driving. I flew all the while from Lagos to Abuja. However, the people feel what they feel, and like I said, it should have been looked at right from the onset to say, wait a minute, why are we budgeting? How much is an innocent vehicle? And you said now that it was rejected. On what basis was it rejected? When you talk about local content, the first company that comes to mind as we speak is Innocent. And any policy of government must satisfy three functions. A policy of government, it wasn't an act of the National Assembly, it was a policy of government during the Jonathan regime to say, we're going to increase this, we're going to increase that. Now, it is seen on both sides. It's seen by the citizen like, wait a minute, this is very unfair. How come you're making us spend so much money clearing our vehicles? And then you're getting this on the taxpayers' bill. And that is why they have approached. You see, I've always told people that we need to stop this them and us. They're already in government. They must be held accountable. But when you say, oh, it's between them and us, some of them would already feel like, oh, well, it's us and them anyways. We'll run this 4-year term and then face the music after that 4-year period. No, you should hold them accountable during while they're in office. And talking about it is really not enough. Talking about it is not going to influence anything. Talking about it is not going to change anything. It's actually acting on it. But from talking, you get to acting. And amazingly, the talk went on for a short while, and Serap acted on it. So it's important to sit back and wait for the outcome of the court. Let's not preempt the court. Let's see how it goes.
So many questions to ask, too little time to ask them all. Thank you so much, Honorable Dayo Bush, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you too for staying with us. You can follow us on the social media handles showing on the screen. I'm Emanuela Edun Adediji. Until I come your way again, remember, your choice determines your lot. Choose wisely. Bye for now.